Today, we're going to be talking about Waterloo region stats. We're going to be unpacking the missing middle, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about the buyer and seller psychology and some of the gap that exists right now between those two things. And I'm here with Zack from Brittain. Zack, welcome back to the channel.
Our average price for detached as of July 30th, detached homes, 862K. So average. All the single detached homes in Waterloo region on average are going to be 862K. If you're looking under that, I've actually found a lot of really good value kind of between that 700 and 850K range. There's over 150 options just in Kitchener alone for
Wow.
detached homes in that price point, right? And so I think like there's actually some pretty good deals to be had under that average. Above that average, we're seeing two things happen. We're seeing homes sit forever and barely selling or selling way under asking, or we're seeing them go right away. And so we're seeing prices down pretty significantly, right? And we're seeing rates down pretty significantly, but we're not seeing demand adjust accordingly. But this is the let's look stupid in a couple of years part of the video, ladies and
I love this
gentlemen. We're
part.
making some, we're doing some outlook, we're doing some slight predictions.
Welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam JD Martin, your host, and today I'm here with Zack from Brittain. Zack, welcome back to the channel.
Brother, we are recording Friday of the long weekend before
Yes.
what is this one even? Victoria Civic Holiday in August? I don't
I'm
even
not going to
know.
lie. I don't know what that is, but it's not the Friday the 13th. It's Friday the 1st. So I feel like that's a good luck charm for us.
We'll take it. We'll take it. But sneaking this in before the long weekend so we can get you guys updated in early August. We're doing July. I got some comments on June and I got some big comments. I can't wait to be clipped on some of the not predictions, but I think maybe the outlook stuff that I want to talk about later in the video. We'll get Adam's opinion on some 1 to 5 year thoughts. Maybe not specifically to Waterloo region, but maybe kind of Ontario as a whole from Adam's perspective, as he's kind of got his fingers all over Southern Ontario. And then missing middle. I had to put up the Malcolm in the Middle picture as somebody who was a 90s kid, sneaking in a couple episodes of Malcolm in the Middle to see what the brothers were doing to torture their parents was just like gold for me anyway. And then, I was having a hard time kind of figuring out how I wanted to communicate this video. And I realized it's like, I have to do what I always do. I got to have some fun with it. So I put some chicken nuggets. So I put some nugs of data throughout some of the slides, guys, that I'll be hitting on. I got a little bit of motivation. And I have some more real estate acronyms because if anything, real estate people just can't stay away from boring, lame acronyms that make no sense and nobody ever knows and they change all the time. So we'll be hitting you
I
guys with
love
all that. Um, I do have an apology though. First and foremost, I do have an apology. I slacked on the investor hot list. So if any of you guys are looking, you'd be like, man,
Yo,
where's the hot list been, Zach? I missed last week, 2 or 3 weeks before that. There were not any really smoking good new deals. So I didn't want to send you guys a bunch of bullshit, but I sent out some good deals this past week. I've gotten lots of emails back. I kind of sent out some more information on a missing middle project that we'll talk about at the end. When I say missing middle, those are kind of like the 10 units and under here in Southern Ontario, specifically here in Waterloo region. And if you guys want more info on kind of those projects, we're going to be hitting those next. But I promise I'll be a good boy. Listen, I was busy and then I went camping with the family and I was working the whole time I was camping. So I didn't get to the investor hot list. My apologies. But for the record, Adam, our girls 2.5 camping, dude, 10 out of 10. Like
love that.
10 out of 10. Dude, s'mores, bikes,
Yeah,
digging at the beach, going through the sand, like playing in the tent with all the stuffies, like happy dad moment for sure.
yeah.
For
Did
sure.
you
So
go
that
air
was really nice.
mattresses?
Oh yeah, we got an air mattress. She had
Oh yeah,
like, and tent camping, you as soon as you go in that you're sweating your ass off because the
oh
tent's really
yeah.
hot. And by the time you wake up in the morning, it's cold and damp. Just loving nature.
Yeah,
Just
I love
loving
that.
nature. So that was really nice. But again, we will get back on the investor hot list, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. But let's jump into the data. So let's just be really clear about where we're at right now. You are in June, July. Seasonality, Adam, has finally come back to Ontario real estate. I've mentioned it a bunch of times. During COVID, didn't matter if it was January, July, middle of the spring, or middle of the fall, market was kind of crazy and kind of squirrely. Well, we have gotten back very consistently to the peak in volume of sales and average price points in the middle of the spring, and then just a slight decline down in number of homes being sold, number of homes being listed, and average sale prices kind of throughout the summer. That being said, we do expect a little bit of an uptick in the fall because that's kind of when people that need to make a move before the end of the year start hitting the market, start being more aggressive with offering on properties. So we'll watch that kind of in, your October, November, December videos to make sure that, the seasonality is continuing. But for now, and I didn't want to put percentages here because I think percentages can be a little misleading for some people. I like just putting hard numbers on this one. Our average price for detached as of July 30th, not reconciled data, so this will be a little different when the official reports come out. But we're recording this August 1st. So detached homes, 862K. So average. All the single detached homes in Waterloo region on average are going to be 862K. If you're looking under that, I've actually found a lot of really good value kind of between that 700 and 850K range. I mean, that's a 150K range. That's a big difference. But
Yep.
like there's over 150 options just in Kitchener alone for
Wow.
detached homes in that price point, right? And so I think like there's actually some pretty good deals to be had under that average. Above that average, we're seeing two things happen. We're seeing homes sit forever and barely selling or selling way under asking, or we're seeing them go right away. Your 1 to your 1.5 or $1 million homes, Adam, they're either like, oh my God, this is premium value, good condition, good features, premium location, bang, we're going to buy. Or,
Yeah.
maybe they missed the mark by 50 or 100K. This is going to sit and price drop on its way down. So long story short, the exact same home is selling for about 45K less this year than it did last year, right? It's a big drop, right? You're over 5%. You're over 5% down year over year on average. Now, towns, 20% down or 20K down. You're low 600s on average for townhouses. Now, you know this. I know you tell your clients and your investors this, but for you guys that aren't aware, the townhouse market is a little skewed. The reason being is a lot of townhouses that are listed are actually stacked townhouses or condo townhouses, and they get lumped into the townhouse, kind of data. Why that's
Yeah.
important though, Adam, is a 3-bedroom stacked townhouse or a 2-bedroom stacked townhouse isn't as desirable as your traditional 2-story, 3-bedroom townhouse,
Yeah.
especially if it's not freehold, especially if it doesn't have a basement, especially if it doesn't have a garage. So the types of properties that are being classified as townhouses aren't always what you investors or buyers or sellers that are watching this video actually think as like a classic 4 rows of townhouses, all with parking and garages and freehold with 2 end units, right? So just, take that into consideration when you're looking at broad, median, or average data. That being said, I think the townhouse market will continue to grow aggressively because not necessarily in price, but in the volume of properties that are actually townhomes that people are buying and builders are building, because builders are building, well, 3 things right now. One, purpose-built rental properties, mid-rise and
Yep.
high-rise apartment buildings. Two, mansions. Your detached double car garage, 3, 4, 5-bedroom homes with the ensuite, sexy, sexy. Those are your million plusers. And then in those same complexes, they're building townhouse complexes at the entrances of these detached home neighborhoods, right? They're not building small rise or mid rise condo or apartment buildings. They're building townhouse complexes because they make them money, right?
Yeah.
So since there's more of those being built, uh, expect the data to kind of continue to be skewed until the market really catches on that, hey, a stacked townhouse that has a condo fee is still in the same category as a freehold townhouse, you know, in a 4 row with a garage and all that jazz. So just, you townhouse guys and girls out there, just make note, right? And now semis. Semis is a really small part of our market, guys. Friendly reminder. Those are at 643,000. They're down about 20K year over year. And then condos, those are down 40K year over year. You're down over, almost 10% depending on which month you're really pegging here. The condo bloodbath continues. Zack Brittain, the condo specialist, and the Phipps Brittain duo. So if you guys have specific questions about your condos, I field it a lot. I've done market analysis, rent analysis, um, you know, growth projections, rent growth projections for specific buildings. So like you guys have a unit in a building, you guys will have some questions on, let me know. But here's one of the first chicken nugs Adam. Chicken nug.
I love a
The
nuggy, man.
5-year fixed rate this time last year was 6.7%, give or take. Now we're at 3.9. Call it 4. Call it
That's
4,
pretty
right?
good, guys.
So, and me and you have had this conversation on air and off. Your interest rates should kind of be around this, right?
Yeah,
In perpetuity, we should be plus minus a percent ish of where we're at, give
yeah,
or take, for the majority, right? Now, what's confusing is how much demand has cooled and stayed cool compared to how aggressively prices and interest rates have dropped.
yeah.
And
That
I
is
think you
fascinating.
would echo the opinion, or not the opinion, but the reminder that real estate is not liquid. Data takes time to bleed into markets, and markets take time to actually adjust to data once they've hit the market. And so we're seeing prices down pretty significantly, right? And we're seeing rates down pretty significantly, but we're not seeing demand adjust accordingly, right? Now, for context, basically, I looked at the June, July in 2020 versus the June, July now, we're up about 26%, give or take, overall. So this is like, if you just looked at average price points for all residential homes, real estate in Waterloo region, we've grown about 26.1, 26.2% in exactly 5 years. So you're about 5% ish, not compounded year over year. On average, you're making about 5% a year. That's just quick, not super accurate, but quick general growth. I don't even run my appreciation models for any of my investments in real estate on a 5% growth rate. I run it at like a 2, right? Oh, if I get a little bit of appreciation, sure, I'll take it, right? But even after this huge come down, if you bought a property in 2020, you're probably up anywhere from 20 to 25%. So I think the hyper focus on all of the pain and confusion that's in the market is, more so the people that were jumping into the market kind of in that 21, 22, 23 as prices just skyrocket in a short period of time. And listen, I bought and sold investment properties during that time too. I got caught with a few that I paid probably a little bit too much on, but I got some sexy financing so I can ride it out. And I'm buying cash flow properties so I can hold them for 10 years if I need to. Boo hoo. Right. So just a friendly reminder, like, your perspective on the market may be a little skewed because of all the noise in the news and maybe personal and emotional pains you felt in the short term, Adam. We felt it all, baby. But like, hey, interest rates are down, volume of properties on the market is up, and prices are down. Like, Adam will scream at you, I will scream at you. Let the offers fly, baby. If you, especially for you investors, okay? So, before I go, Adam, any comments on price?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just generally speaking, like I fully agree with you, right? That like these drops in price are fairly significant at the same time that you see an interest rate pretty much cut in half. Like that's not a typical response. And I think you nailed it on the head that like, yeah, we're dealing with a lagging market, right? Like the data just takes a long time to adjust to the reality. So I would agree that like now if you can find an opportunity that fits your investment strategy where you think that you can cash flow, I think it's a really great time to be letting offers fly. Like if inventory's sitting, prices are down, people are looking to sell, this is a great time to think about buying and to think about making great offers that fit your strategy. So yeah, I agree with everything you just said.
And we're not reinventing the wheel, guys. You don't have to come up with new strategies that didn't exist before. I think what works the best has changed a little, but that will always change based on what the market needs and what the key market variables really are. So I think we'll go through some more market data. And then once we get to the outlook and maybe some of the so what section on really kind of our opinions on what's happening, we can have another level of discussion on that. But the volume of sales, we're less sales volume in July than in June. That's really common, right? July 1st long weekend, the week before and the week after that is the heaviest closing day of the year every single year. Everybody trying to get their property right before, right after the July long weekend so they can have it ready for the summer. Condo sales volume versus inventory is the most severe. We're not selling a ton of condos, but I also thought it was really interesting. I think I make a note of it in the next section is like, actually, no, we'll talk about that in the next section in terms of inventory, but like very similar total volume of business in 2024. And I think the summary at the bottom there is important to note is there's more listings and fewer buyers, but the economic and uncertainty in employment and affordability being pinched, tariffs, is really kind of just holding a lot of consumers back. And the one part of that I wanted to highlight was the affordability. Is yes, prices have come down. Yes, interest rates have come down, but like the measures of affordability were not even close in Waterloo region even. And Waterloo region is a dramatically more affordable market than anything between here and the GTA.
Yeah.
And I think like I see it every day. I live downtown. There's more people that need a lot of help. There's a larger homeless population. There's people struggling to make mortgage payments. There's clients and investors and tenants that have to downsize or get rid of properties just to get out from underneath them and move on. And so that is the slow shift of real estate really starting to bleed into a lot of people. But I will make this statement here is if investors or buyers or sellers or anybody in real estate is waiting for, an entire market collapse, I got bad news for you. That cannot happen, right? And we will touch on that in a couple slides. But inventory, we have 21, let's call it 2150 listings. Of those, I think it's really important to understand how big the market is for the type of property you're looking for.
Hmm.
So there's over half those are single family homes, detached, right? That's in all of Waterloo region. And then you got, the other 50% largely divided in quarters by townhouses and condo inventory. And then a handful of semis are going to be sitting there, right? So, that's helpful perspective for investors, Adam, that are like, oh, I can't find a good deal. Okay, well, are you looking for a semi-detached and there's, only 100 semi-detached to choose from? And then of those 100, only 10 of them fit your price range. Okay, well then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be hard to find a really smoking good deal, guys, right? But just to wrap, bow on what Waterloo region real estate really is right now, it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market that's cloaked as let's call it a balanced market, right? Um, buyers have power out there and they're using it. Sellers are slow to adjust to the market reality. We should be freaking letting these offers fly. And, that makes sense to you and me and to other investors, Adam. But where I think a lot of clients or buyers, sellers, investors, and frankly, other agents are missing is they haven't adjusted their expectations or clients' expectations to the realities of the market. And that's a topic that we'll touch on. And that's, really the so what segment. And I put this up, the reality of the market conditions. And I just had to hammer this home. I literally, I took this slide out and I had to put it back in different words, but I had to put it back in because I've been battling that as a listing agent, as a buyer's agent, as an investor. There is such a conflict between every player in this market because one, I think people have felt a lot of pain. Two, the market's kind of divided. Oh, we're about to bounce back, or oh, we might be in for another, slower 12 to 24 months. There isn't clear direction in the economy or in the market. And I feel that, but you're walking through with a buyer or you're negotiating with a seller, you're not going to be able to verbalize that as to why it's affecting your decision-making powers as clearly as you could, given it thought to do a video for you investors out there. So
Yeah.
buyers are just being really unclear with feedback, Adam. Like you go through a place, I'm like, nah, it just didn't feel right. That blows my mind. If you're working with investors, that's not an option. It doesn't feel right, doesn't make sense. Be more clear. You don't like the neighborhood, you don't like the tenant profile, you don't like how clean the building is. Like let's give this real consideration. But for you buyers and sellers out there, buying and selling your family home or your personal residence, feeling is important. But like, is it neighborhood? Is it school district? Is it too much public transit? Is it the neighbor's backyard? Like, let's be specific. But I think that's a really shadowy answer for buyers just know they can find a better deal,
Yep.
right? Like straight up. If buyers are going through your listing, or if you're working with buyers and there's like, yeah, I didn't like that one. All right. But that means that they know there's a better deal out there, but they can't properly explain exactly why this specific one isn't perfect. And they know they could just look at the deals that come up next week. There's going to be more listings that come up than that are sold. So technically next week, I'll probably have more options than this week, Adam. I'll keep shopping. Right. And now in that type of market condition, Adam and friends, is there's going to be more conditional offers. There's going to be more sellers that say no to your offer. There's going to be more deals falling apart. I kept this part in there. Tension and sauce in the market. There's a lot of sauce, but it's just lathered with tension as well. And what I mean by that is seller thinks they're getting 650. But you bring an offer for 630 or 625, they're going to be a little, you know, poopy pants, let's call it, a little hurt, right? Whereas in a balanced market, there's going to be a couple signbacks. There's going to be a couple counteroffers. There's going to be a little bit of nickel and diming and a little bit of negotiation because the level of competition allows it. You're an
Yeah.
investor, Adam. How you've been told F you no more than you've been told F you yes. So you
Yeah.
buyers out there, you sellers out there, you agents, you investors, that's okay, right? That's okay. But the
By the
market
way,
reality is the
that
same. There's not
happens
that much
at like
competition.
no, and that like should happen at like maybe not quite 100 to 1, but like minimum 10 to 20 to
Almost.
1. You should get told
Yes.
like seriously F off. And that doesn't mean you're
Yes.
like trying to be rude. It just means like I'm going to make offers that make sense for me and my investing strategy. And like you have every opportunity to say no and every opportunity as well to give me a counter offer. Like maybe I can adjust price as long as I get some better terms on certain things, or maybe I adjust my terms and then I'm willing to pay more or offer less, but I get something nice. And so I think that's like really where it all comes down to is like you don't even open the door to a conversation if you're like, I don't like the feel of this building. Where like maybe you don't love the floor plan, or maybe you don't like the neighborhood, or maybe you don't like whatever, but we can adjust that, right? Because each one of those factors is just a toggle that we're adjusting a lever. So if I'm not getting that particular thing that I want, maybe I offer slightly less, but I meet them at their terms. Or it's all this balance. It's all this equation of how much can I offer based on the factors in front of me. And there's never truly a perfect property. Like sometimes we think
No,
that a property might look good, but
doesn't exist.
what we want to talk about is like the archetype of a property, right? Like maybe a number of units or maybe a particular neighborhood that you believe is going to have great promise for appreciation, or you love the schools there or whatever. I think that's those are useful factors, but they really can't make up the totality of your decision, right? It's all
No.
about trade-offs, right? Thomas Sowell's favorite line was "There's no solutions, there are only trade-offs," and I couldn't agree more with that statement when it comes to making an offer, right? Like
Yeah, and
it's just
to making a deal actually work. Like
that's right,
you're not going to get the
and
first offer accepted.
yeah. And that's the other like reality of the situation, right? Is you're dealing with another human on the other end of your offer who has their own set of goals and, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that they're seeing the world through. And I think it's really important to just understand that an offer is the beginning of a conversation. It's not really like a statement piece where you're just like take it or leave it. That's not really how you get deals done, particularly when the market is in a funny place where buyers want one thing and there's this gap between what the sellers want.
Yeah,
You have to have a
100%.
conversation, and we do that through making an offer that adequately states your goals, your intent, and ask them like, hey, is this something we can work on?
Yeah. And I think to put the cherry on that, is this something that we can work on? One of the number one mistakes I see agents making is when they're trying to negotiate, they beat up the property they're offering on. Why
Yeah,
would you and your clients go to
yeah,
somebody, look them in the eyes, and say, I want to buy your place, but I hate this, this, this,
yeah,
this, this, and this part really sucks about it.
yeah,
Give me a better price. Guys, no, 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 no. That can work. That may be the best way in some scenarios, but generally speaking, the approach should be me and my clients love this property. It's a great fit for these reasons, these reasons, these reasons. They love it. They love to make it work, but their concerns are X, Y, Z, and we love to figure out a way how we can put this together. Here's our offer. Give me a call. Let me know what we can discuss to make this work together. Like
yeah,
your approach has to be, yeah, we love it, but there's some concerns. Work with me on the concerns and we'll be all good, baby boy. Like I just feel that too many buyers, sellers, and agents just take it personally, where it's like
yeah,
it's a collaboration. Like it's trade-offs, just like you said. So, that's all I'll say. And to wrap up the so what segment is that gap in expectations and reality between buyers and sellers is much larger with the sellers. I see buyers being much more willing to be flexible than sellers. And I think that's because sellers feel that they've already felt so much pain and their expectations are still kind of, tied down to prices and over asking offers and lots of showings. And, because that's what we'd had for the last decade. But a really interesting point was I pulled all the sales for the last week right before we got on here. And I was like, how many of these are selling over asking or under asking? And it's almost 50-50. Almost 50-50. I would love to take more time to get the data. I'm like, okay, when properties do sell over asking, is it like 1 or 2% or is it like 10%? Because
Yeah.
that would mean like they're purposely listing gross low and they're just taking whatever they can get. Or is, what's really the range in that type of data? But I thought that was really interesting. So our list to sale price ratio, our spicy ratio, for those of you that have watched the videos for a while, you're about 100% now,
Yeah.
99%, depending on the market segment. So like generally speaking, you would expect a property to sell around where it's actually listed. Where in reality, we're seeing the complete opposite. We're seeing two things happen. More often than not, we're seeing properties sell over asking, about 50%. The vast majority of the other 50%, typically properties selling under asking because they've been on the market really long, or they've price dropped, or they've relisted and then sold under their new price. So that data is a little skewed. You literally got to go through your target properties, look at the last month of sales, and just see what's their listing price, what's their sale price, and how long did it take. And
Yeah.
then did it relist at a new price, or has it been at the original price for a long time? Like context is important. But I mean, like if you're doing your offers yourself, do this your own. If not, your agent should do this for you, or they should already know because they're offering on these types of properties all the time. So I just thought that was really interesting that still a vast majority of properties are actually selling over asking. And we're starting to see that trend really, really come back. But this is the let's look stupid in a couple of years part of the video, ladies and
I love this
gentlemen. We're
part.
making some, we're doing some outlook, we're doing some slight predictions on real estate. I think this is important for people that are interested specifically in the Waterloo region, but also maybe for you guys and girls just to get in the mind of Zach on really what my expectations are. I've realized I've been in the business for a decade now, and I invest pretty much investing as my full-time job. I work with anywhere from 20 to 50 clients a year, give or take, but the bulk of my time and energy is working with clients in their investment properties or my own. And so from my personal experience and what we've started to really see bleed into and really affect the market, prices are down, rents are down, interest rates come up and then they come down, and then supply is up and demand just doesn't change. It's just been slow. And we've seen low demand for rentals, we've seen low demand for purchase, but the creme de la creme, kind of that top 20 to 10% of the market segments, whether it's the best condos, the best detached homes, the best apartment buildings, those are all still selling really well. And then everything else, ghost town, right? There is a huge drop off in what is working and what isn't. And it's very clear what is working. So if you guys are considering doing business in Waterloo region and you want to know what's working, it is specific to your asset class and your type of property. But the reality is about 20% tops of the market is actually succeeding right now. Everybody else is just mucking it up, scrumming it up, fighting for things that just aren't really there. Unrealistic seller or buyer expectations. And it's just, causing a lot of inventory to sit. And that's why prices have really, come down and inventory has stayed up. So I think kind of the 1 year outlook at them. If you guys are just watching this video, just learning about Waterloo region real estate, our market is technically, statistically, it looks like a balanced market. It's a buyer's market. Like it is acting like a buyer's market. It's this. I love that. I love that. The balanced market is, there's pretty much the same amount of buyers and sellers, but buyers are being like, man, chill, this isn't a good enough deal, I'll get a better deal next week. And sellers are like, I don't want to adjust my price, I want, spring's price or last year's price. So I expect within the next year, if we're not already there, we should be within the bottom. I expected it to kind of be around the summer or the fall of this year. I may have been wrong on that, and I may be wrong on this as well, but I don't think there is a ton more room to go down. And I think what'll start happening is, we mentioned this in previous videos, more incentives are going to start coming in, pushing more buyers to kind of jump into the market. But this is one of the other little chicken nuggets for you investors that are still watching this video. Listen, real estate ain't going anywhere. And this is coming from a guy who until recently wasn't a 110% real estate guy. I never thought I'd be a real estate guy. 13 to 20% of GDP in Canada is real estate. Adam, that's too big. There's too much big dollar bills
Yeah.
for our government, for our economy, for jobs, for big business. Like, I'm not saying it won't fail, but I'm just saying, like real estate ain't going anywhere. This is a slow patch in real estate. That happens. That is healthy for every type of market. Any open free market cycle is going to have, your troughs, going to have your downtrends, guys. But 13%, and if you account, I think it was if you account for construction, it goes up to 20%. So if you just take, um, you know,
It's crazy.
landlords, tenants, real estate sales, right? Like 13%, 13%. It is so
That's
much of our overall economy.
that is
It's
massive.
massive,
That is massive. Like
massive.
that number is staggering, actually, really.
Right? So like there is so much money relying and the government and the reason why this is really important is the government has a ton of influence and intervention on real estate in Canada, specifically in Ontario. It is in their best interest to maintain some level of consistent growth in real estate long term. Consistent long term growth gives predictability to big business. Big business needs government support in order to succeed and make as much money as they've been making, which is a shitload. That is a real number, a shitload. Okay.
Yeah.
So too big to fail almost, right? I don't think a big drop's coming, but if it were, I would buy more. Now, the 2 to 5 year notes. All right. This is a little bit more broad. I think supply is slowly going to diminish. I think they're really building a ton of purpose-built rentals, which is great. We do need them, but supply overall will start to diminish, kind of after we've really hit that bottom, after buyers get some more incentives, whether it be cheaper interest rates or delayed payments or preferential terms on new builds, whatever it might be. It's going to take a few years for supply to slowly kind of chip down. And I think that as that happens, your slow price stabilization and rent stabilization will slowly start to turn into, okay, now it's not staying flat anymore. It's not going down anymore. It'll slowly start to tick up as that inventory gets gobbled up. And then, chronic undersupply issues should, certainly return eventually, but probably for not another 5 to 10 years max minimum. Like it's going to take a while for demand to catch up, guys, right? But within this kind of 2 to 5 year window, widely expected that supply will diminish because supply is really high from what we've really become accustomed to in Ontario. Now, this is something we've talked about before, Adam. A larger percentage of the market is going to rent versus own. This is
Yeah.
a big shift. And that's why I really wanted to hammer down the fact that affordability is still a problem in Waterloo region, and much more so in your major market centers, like your Torontos, like your, Vancouvers, like your Calgarys, like your Montreals, and even like Halifax. Like
Yeah.
things aren't as cheap as people need them to be. It's going to be very expensive to live in major cities in Ontario and the rest of Canada. So just know we're building a lot more purpose-built rentals, and the only things that we're building to own large detached homes and townhouse complexes and condos. So I think a larger percentage of buyers are going to go to your condos because that's all they can afford, and they're going to have to accept that reality, or they're going to rent. And if they don't get into the market young or they don't get in the market early, they can't build equity, they can't save, they can't, use that equity to leverage into a detached home or a townhouse. And I think the whole model of like the Ontario or the Canadian home ownership dream is really just shifting. And we'll talk about that before we wrap up the video. But this kind of all hinges on job growth. If we continue to keep good education here, we'll still get people coming in here to go to school. It'll depend on, immigration as well. If we open up the floodgates for immigration again, which might actually happen. And two is the tech sector, specifically here in Waterloo region, and our proximity and affordability compared to Toronto. The tech sector and proximity and affordability compared to Toronto is kind of the two big things that you investors should be watching. I don't know if I have it next, but I have a sexy little, artistic map I drew for you that'll kind of hit on this. Is in Waterloo region, a lot of money and really smart people used to come in here to go to school, start businesses, or get connected with the tech sector, and then they'd f off. Well, now there's enough here, or now there's enough flexibility with working from home, with transit to the GTA, out west, to California, to New York, to Boston, where people can live and work or build businesses here because there's enough talent that has actually stayed. So the tech sector is positioned to really boom. And this was some of the sections that we talked about. Incentives from builders and lenders. If you guys are like, so what? All this data, Zach, yeah, we get it. Well, what should happen is incentivize buyers and investors to do more business because the Canadian economy relies on real estate success and they need more business to grow. First time home buyers, you are going to be pigeonholed into either renting for your rest of your life, buying a condo, or getting lots of help from mom and dad, all of which are very viable options. Homeowners, what's going to happen is what's already happening is they're going to stay in their homes longer. It's going to be cheaper and more economical for them to modify their existing home than it is to go find something else because there's no other good options. That's why people are building ADUs. That's why putting in basement suites. That's why they're building additions because they'd rather live in their quiet midtown suburb or quiet side street than go move into the boonies or go move downtown into a condo. Okay, no, the kids will move into the house. I'll go build an addition or an ADU or a suite for me. Oh, and I'll sell the house to the kids and we'll combine and live in the same home together. That multi-gen living is a thing, and that is happening here because we still have space to create that in existing homes or to build new ones. Like a lot of the mansions they're building, they're offering to finish the basements for the suites. So grandma and grandpa or mom and dad or the kids can live down there. If you drive through any new neighborhood in Waterloo region, you would be hard pressed to go more than a block without finding multiple signs for construction companies and builders offering basement suites,
Yeah.
right? Who could afford $1.5 million home to just go move into as their first home? The first time home buyer incentives are not for detached homes, guys. These are for townhouses. These are for stacked towns. These are for, affordable properties. And then I think just an important thing to note too is your common amenities, Adam, those are going to diminish. Garages, parking spaces, storage spaces, yards, like they've already started to get cut out of properties. A double car garage 20 years ago was different than a double car garage now, right? If you buyers have ever been in a double car garage in a new home and you've been in one in an old home, that's just a silly little example, but I get that comment all the time. It's like, oh, this isn't a double car. Yeah, it is. Technically for builders, this is what it is now. So all these things are trends that are already happening, but I think will be exacerbated and become much more in your face and apparent to the average buyer, seller, investor, in the next 5 to 10 years, because you see, after a decade of experience and kind of really considering what's already changed since I've been in the business and seeing, what builders are building, what buyers are buying, what investors are investing in, I'm not saying the writing's on the wall, but I'm saying there's pretty clear signs, guys. And this is the sexy photo. We'll wrap it up pretty quick after this with what missing middle is and what some projects that we're working on are. But this is Waterloo Region. This is Google Map. I whipped this up this morning because I couldn't find something that really properly displayed what I was thinking and what I am seeing. So this is the vision, Adam. All the green, those are all your new subdivisions that are really booming. What are we going to
Yeah.
build out there? Detached homes, townhouse complexes. These are your million plus. These are your freehold towns or your, condo common element fee stack townhouse complexes that are brand new. They got nice amenities, but they're going to have limited parking and they're not going to have any storage. That's what they're building these days, ladies and gentlemen, right? These are on the outskirts of town, except for the one in just north of the 401 in Cambridge on the right side of my screen. But what's more important for you investors out there, see the red? Those are the LRT pretty much. The dots down on the bottom right, that's Cambridge. That's close-ish to where they're expecting to put the LRT. And why that's important is it bleeds into, what the next 5 to 10 years in real estate is going to be. Along those lines, if you're not seeing it already, condos, purpose-built apartment buildings, commercial mixed use. These are A plus downtown, uptown, central locations along major thoroughfares, along transit routes, where all your amenities are, where all your shops are, where all your services are. This is where the city is going to be bigger in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Plain and simple, right? Well, what's interesting is missing middle. So listen, Adam, you, me, other investors know, listen, we're not going up, we're not building, whole neighborhoods. We're not building condo
Yeah.
buildings. We're not building huge complexes. That's big money. That is big builders. That is big money. That is institutional money. I'm not there yet, right? Most of you guys and girls watching this aren't there yet either. So why that's important is if you want to invest, the missing middle is something that a lot of municipalities are trying to attack, but also lenders, builders, building divisions, contractors, like the size of investor that will watch these videos or that will invest in real estate on their own or with their small team. These are types of projects you guys can actually execute on and that we're seeing good value in. So low rise and under. These are in Kitchener-Waterloo. These are typically going to be, 4 to 6 stories or less. More commonly, these are 10 units or less. You know, because they're just building out, Adam. Those are your detached homes over 1 million.
Yeah.
Those are your townhouses. Those are single family properties. Those don't cash flow in Waterloo region. They haven't for about a decade, right? So you investors are like, okay, I need a multi-unit to cash flow. And existing multi-units, they want this price, but their rents are here because they've had awesome tenants, but they've been in there for 10 years. So their rents are like $1,000 a unit. but they want, 250 to 350K a door for a property.
Yeah.
Well, if any of you have underwritten a deal in the last 2 years in Waterloo region, you know that those numbers suck for the most part. You need a better cap rate, or I need way cheaper cost per door, or I need better financing options, or I need something to make this deal work. So what we're seeing is a lot of people are building purpose-built 4 to 6, typically more 6 to 10 units in those downtown or midtown locations. Bonus if it's in a strategic growth area, your SGAs. So you guys want to know what that is? Quick little Google Waterloo region or Kitchener or Waterloo, and your SGAs are typically going to be around where your LRT stops are. We've done videos on this before, right? Now, the sexy thing is, for people who haven't built or developed or even looked at this space, this is going to be a lot. But for those of you who have looked at this, if you're building anything, your number one kind of issue is always going to be getting permits, how long it takes to demolish something, get your permits approved, get the site ready, get your like time is just the killer. Even if you find the right price, right location, time is just your killer. Well, if you put an application in for a 10 unit or less property, you don't have to do site plan approval, which means you could literally just submit a perfect permit application. And if it's a perfect permit application, City of Kitchener specifically, they have to get back to you in 10 business days.
That's so
So
awesome.
you submit a good permit application, you're getting approved in 10 days. Now, listen, if you're building a 10plex, let's call it, you're probably going to have some minor variances regardless of where you're building it. All right, so call it, you're probably 3 months instead of a year to actually get approval for a project. And
Way
most of that
better.
stuff you can do before you close. So you could have shovels in the ground within a few months or less after you close on a property. And if you're only building 4 to 10 units, that should take you a year door to door tops. Tops. So you could have a brand new rental property, purpose built multi unit in less than a year. And then let's call it, 6 months for legal bullshit, 6 months for refinancing, an extra 6 months for tenanting, filling it up, getting the finishing touches on. Let's call it a year and a half. You could be in and out of a project in a year and a half, that you have brand new units in probably a midtown or downtown location, right? And you have a little bit more control over the time. And the thing about these projects is they're more manageable. This isn't $10 million projects, $20
Yeah.
million project. You may need anywhere from 500 to 1.1, 1.2 million in cash, depending on how you finance the acquisition and the construction. If you have more, great. But these are typically anywhere from $4 to $6 million projects when you're done. So you need anywhere from 600K to 1.1, 1.2 million to pull these off. And the thing about the missing middle is they're desirable. Usually they have modern layouts. You're probably getting 2 or 3 bedroom units. And if you want to go the affordability, or if you want to go efficiencies with CMHC options, you can get preferential financing on the exit. There's lots of lenders that are happy to lend for construction as well, especially if you have a clean exit program or clean exit strategy. And there's also really desirable to sell, you know, A+ brand new rental units in good locations. And a lot of investors are into that type of thing, and they don't want to go ahead and develop or build them because there's a lot of stuff to do for there. They'd rather pay a premium just to acquire it as is. So these are the types of projects like we're really focusing on because they're repeatable. There's a lot of big lots in downtown and midtown locations with old shitty buildings that are single family or 2 unit properties that you could smash down and go build a 6 to 10 unit in less than 2 years door to door and get them, recoup a lot of your capital and go do it again. And it solves the problem of high purchase price for low rents. And it's also an A+ asset. It's brand new built. It's not rent controlled. You have control over the building, the design, and the features and the amenities. So you have an idea of what it should rent for in your tenant profile. So we're really focusing a ton on these projects. We've toured a ton of them from other investors in other cities as well. We've learned a lot about the building process, and we've really done a ton of homework. We're closing on our first one. This is the first, so it'll be the first week of August in less than a week. We're really excited about that. We're going to be sharing more about this project on future videos. I just wanted to tease it here. I can't share too much data yet, not closed. So, I got to be careful, got to be a little cautious, guys. But if people have questions about building, developing infill projects, like send me a message, book a call with me, send me an email, Adam. Like, I want to just grab all my friends and family and clients and just be like, listen, you don't have to buy something now, but if you want to invest in real estate and you want it to be a part of your retirement, or you want it to be a part of your like savings and your investing planning, like at least take a look at stuff now. Because even if you looked at it now and you slowly, casually shop for 6 to 12 months, you are so likely to get a fantastic deal. And by the time your first mortgage term is up in 3 to 5 years, I would probably bet you might have a little bit more room than you do now. And so I just caution people to plan now and offer often with a little bit of caution, a little bit of, a little bit of extra room because the market's still being a little squirrely. But I have a hard time, when I see people just sitting on the sidelines and waiting now when they were active in the market 3, 4, 5 years ago. You're just like, guys, market's more sexy than it is now, and there's a lot of people that want to dance. So if somebody wants to come dance at them, if you want to dance, if you ladies and gentlemen here watching the video want to come dance, shoot me an email. Don't be a stranger. The summer is a good time to start planning if you want to make a move by the end of this year, or you want to get something together after your taxes are wrapped up in 2026. That's what a lot of our investors are looking at now. So let's get in touch. Don't be a stranger. Would love to hop on a call.
All right. Love that, Zach. I really appreciate your insights there. And I think you did a really great job today at unpacking like the buyer, the seller's mindset, and sort of that dance that really does need to happen between both in order to put a deal together. And I think that's a very valuable perspective for everybody to maintain today, as well as once again taking a look at the longer term outlook on real estate and not so much worried and so much concerned about exactly what the price is today or what exactly the deal is today right now versus adding value, buying strategically, and taking a more long-term approach to your investment strategy. So really appreciate that, guys. And Zach may have ditched you on the last investor hot list, but he does not do that regularly. And I think that's a great resource for you guys to find information on investing, to find other like-minded individuals. And they always post as well there the events that they hold in person. So I think those are great opportunities as well for you to get out, network with other people, develop your power team, maybe learn something,
Yep.
and obviously a great source for deals as well. So
Yeah,
as
we're
you
going to be
know,
sharing site visits. We're going to be
oh,
sharing some ADU stuff as well, Adam.
dang,
Like it's tricky because some of the stuff we can't necessarily share publicly, but on the investor hot list, like we can have a little bit more direct communication. And then you
yeah,
get my personal contact info as well. I get lots of people just
awesome.
checking in on listings, asking about price data in specific neighborhoods. Like that's how you make good decisions. You get good resources, you get good information, and it's no obligation. Like me and Adam, we chop it up on here every month. We're real estate investors and agents as well, but like it's relationships. If we don't have a relationship, it's going to be hard for me to help you find and build something legitimate.
Yep.
So understand and commit to that. But the investor hot list has been great. The Canadian real estate channel has been great to us. If you guys haven't already, subscribed to the YouTube channel or tossed a like on the videos that you guys like. And Adam, there's so much stuff. Like I'm active viewer on the real estate channel. Like I love seeing what the
There's a
finance
lot.
guys are doing. I love seeing what some other cities are doing and other state or other provinces are doing too, just to see how investors think a little bit differently.
Yep.
But yeah, I really appreciate everybody that's reached out, and the investor hot list will keep cooking.
I love that. All right, Zach, we'll see you back here next month. I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy Friday.
Cheers, guys.